pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I meant that in the best sense of the...
Yeah.
Mr. Nowotnik, would you call the meeting to order? Call the roll?
Yep, this will be the Wrightown Park Commission meeting, Monday, February 25th, 2013. And we have Commissioner Carvin.
Yep.
Commissioner French has going to be absent. He is away. Commissioner Pilla, not sure. Commissioner Feinstein.
Here.
Commissioner Salanitro.
Here.
And Commissioner Brett.
Here.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We'll fix the minutes, or we'll fix the agenda. I didn't have your name on the agenda, but we will have it there.
Please.
I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Okay, any comments on last month's minutes?
I do.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
I just have typos, but I also wanted to add one of my comments that I made, because it was attributable to me. I also wanted to add some language to the fact that she also stated that the park was an amenity and did not have to break even. Parks cost money to run.
Yep, duly noted.
Something,
Yeah,
because
I
I did
remember
say
Oh,
that.
and where?
So in
I'll give it to you.
Oh, okay. All right, I
It
see.
wasn't very artful, but I'm not always artful.
Well, there was quite a huge discussion
haven't
on that
done that.
topic.
Yeah, I've said that before.
All right,
so.
all right, great.
Good.
We
Any
will
other
fix.
comments?
Just
Sure,
a
please.
typo. Comments from the public. The first person who spoke was Kleena Cronin,
Yeah.
and you've got
Ah.
her name misspelled. It's Cliona.
See, well, that first name or last name? Hang on.
First name is Kleena.
Kleena.
Cliona.
Cleona.
That's right. She's here
Okay.
today again. So.
Okay. And the last name is Cronin spelled right?
That's spelled correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Beautiful.
All right.
Thank
We
you.
also have Dino Gorin down there. That was not, that I found out later, that's incorrect. That was one of the Giganti brothers, actually. I just don't know which one, the two twins.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Great. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Gian Grandi.
Okay, comments from the public.
None?
Cleona, you want to come up? Let's kick things. And I know you wanted to say something as well, I think, right?
Right,
Yep.
just
So we'll-
to tee
yep,
this
perfect.
up
Let's go ahead.
quickly.
Yep. Please.
If you recall, the last meeting, Kleena was here and was proposing a day in Riot Town Park for the PTO at Sandy Hook. I think it's a great show of support for the community that's really done through so much. And she's now here today to ask us if we'll consider waiving the pavilion parking and beach fees on that day for all the people who attend that day.
And I'm assuming you're recommending
And
in favor.
I am recommending that we do in fact waive those fees.
Wonderful. I'm confident. Let's hear from Cleona,
Sure.
but I'm...
Well, really, Laura, you've you've said what I wanted to say. Just, we are doing this project. It's been met. We now know that the parents of Sandy Hook were inundated with requests, and they chose ours.
Wow. Wow.
Which I think for two reasons. Thank you. Number one, that we're doing it as a mom to mom, and number two, that we're actually remembering what's happened, and we're dedicating a bench. Dedicating a bench to the families of Sandy Hook on that day. So I think it's a dual where it'll be a very nice day for the moms, but we're also not, forgetting the reason we're here.
Wow. What can you remind everybody of the date?
The date is Wednesday, May 15th, with a rain date of Wednesday, May 22nd.
Okay.
So it's the Wednesday following Mother's Day.
Oh, wow.
And we're hoping to keep this date fairly quiet because we don't want to attract any undue press attention.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Well, okay, you help us. How can we help you, Cleona?
Well, really, we're looking for some major reduction in the pavilion, in the cost of the pavilion rental.
I'm pretty confident that I can.
Absolutely.
We can.
Absolutely.
So the board will give you the support on that.
You get my mom vote.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well,
Give my dad vote.
Exactly.
I'm not going to take up too much more time.
Bill, did you want to say something?
That's before we officially open,
Right.
so there won't be any lifeguards on duty unless we make some arrangements to have them on duty. Is that correct? Chris?
Yes, there.
So
Right, that's,
They're not gonna swim.
Swimming isn't on the agenda, but we have some water activities. We have kayaking and paddle boarding that Rye moms have volunteered to do. So if you want us to look for a Rye, if we can get a Rye mom who's a lifeguard or something, if we can circumvent things that way, we will certainly
that would be,
We don't-
that would be ideal.
Yeah.
And the commission isn't really giving up an awful lot, because the only thing we charge for is preseason parking at that particular point. We don't charge beach access because we don't have lifeguards. So,
And the pavilion fee, right? I mean,
and yeah, as far as the pavilion fee, I don't think that's an issue.
Are there any insurance issues that you think about?
I don't know. It's an informal group. How are they going to get insurance?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out.
No, I think,
Actually,
yeah.
does the PTO have insurance?
I will have to look into that.
I mean, it may through the umbrella, and they're a member of the, through the PTA.
Right,
You
I will.
may be able to get a rider.
Yeah.
Right, I can look into that.
And approximately how many people are you thinking?
This is the $1 million question. If we knew what the weather was going to be like, we know that numbers be an awful lot more. There are 430 children in Sandy Hook at the moment, which is about 310 moms, a third of whom work. But the girls that we've been liaising with feel that, because of the proximity to Mother's Day and because it's coming towards the end of the school year, that we may have a big turnout. But big could be 100, big could be 200. And that's one of our big challenges for the day is working.
Will they be bused?
They will be bused from Sandy Hook down to Rye.
We'll just need that information to allow space for the buses.
Indeed.
And Cleona,
Indeed.
are you looking to get people to come, or are you looking to keep the local turnout low?
The local turnout low. We will have a lot of volunteers on the day.
Right.
We've been inundated with offers of support
And no
on the
press.
day.
You
No
use the
press.
press.
We're absolutely doing
Right,
everything
this
we
is really
can.
right.
Yeah, to
All right, well,
avoid
should we cut
press
this
intrusion.
portion of the meeting out then?
Keeping the date
Because
under wraps would be
this is
terrific.
widely watched. The meeting's widely watched.
Right, well, maybe keeping the date.
Great. Well, listen, congratulations. Good luck with everything, Cleona.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for your
carte blanche
support.
from the town board.
Really, having the use of the beach is what prompted the whole
Yeah.
event. Had we
Right.
not had that, the event wouldn't be happening. So thank you all very
Glad we
much.
could be of service. Thank you so much. Great. Other comments from the public? You just missed the first comment. An effort to, well, why don't you explain it?
open up the park to the families from Sandy Hook on a Wednesday in May, so.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Sure, come on up. Could you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Linda Lefkowitz, Oakwood Avenue, Rye. I don't really know what's happening at the park right now. Last month's meeting was canceled.
No, it was 2 months ago.
2 months ago?
Yeah, I think we missed was it the December meeting?
December meeting,
Oh.
yes.
We had trouble over the holidays getting the quorum.
Okay. I understand there's been some talk about trying to get more dogs at the park. People have been asking to get the park to allow more dogs, allow them to run, all that kind of stuff.
Well, certainly that's not the policy of the board. Is just the opposite. What we, as you know, and everybody knows, there's a lot of people that want to use the park who are dog owners, and they'd like to have those dogs off leash.
Yes.
And we've made it very clear from the board as a policy matter that the dogs have to be on leash at all times. At all times. Again, there is some impression that dogs off leash before 9 o'clock was okay. That is not true at all. We've worked very hard to disabuse people of that notion. So dogs need to be on leash. In fact, one of our commission members has been, so a bit disconcerted by the effort to get dogs off leash, which everybody knows is contrary to New York State law. He's suggesting if we can't provide the security we need, that we don't allow dogs in the park at all. Now, no one wants to get to that kind of a solution. That's not a solution. What we have talked about is if the dog owners who want their dogs off leash wanted to make a proposal and come to the board about some form of dog run, where you'd have a regulated situation, certainly I would be open to considering such a proposal. But so far, no proposals come forward. I think the final thing is, as we head into the summer season, we've made it very clear we're going to have to enforce. And, I think I was disappointed that our parks personnel last year were really accosted in many ways.
Were what?
Accosted and abused.
The Rangers?
Yes. And so ultimately, what we need to do is find a way for us to enforce in a way that is obviously polite, diplomatic, and respectful, but also enforced.
Well,
So that's sort of summary. But let me just offer it up to the commission members to. That's sort of my recollection of where we are. But let me offer it to the other board members.
I'm new on the commission, and but I live in Rye, and I have to say, the users of the park in the off season are primarily dog owners. But I understand that it's a park and it should be open to everyone, and if it becomes a dog park, then people can't use the park. So I would favor a policy that would allow dogs off leash within restricted hours. That to me makes the most sense, and it balances the interests of all users. But I know that that's been discussed before this commission. I may at some point choose to raise it, but that issue is not, in fact, before the commission right now.
Okay. Well, before you came on the commission, there was talk about all kinds of things with the dogs, on, off, whatever. But I live fairly near the park, and it doesn't matter when I go to the park. There are people there with their dogs off leash, and when I ask them to leash their dogs, I get fingers, things said to me, whatever, and I find that it's really not right. Now, I understand that the Rye City police were going to come and do some enforcement, but it never seemed to work out that they had time. And if the police were called about a dog loose, I understand they didn't usually come because they were either short-staffed or something, but I think that if the rules are applied, the dog people will put their dogs on a leash. One thing I'd like to ask about is, do you people understand why people walk the dogs and take them to the park? What are they planning on doing there?
Well, let me answer. Councilwoman Brett is new to this commission.
Yes.
I'm old to this commission, but I'm soon to be not on this commission.
Second to last. Second
to my
to last, right?
meeting. So
I'm sorry.
I think we've been dealing, at least I've been on this commission for 5 years since I've been mayor of Rybrook, and we've dealt with it. I'm very frustrated because I have said emphatically that dogs should be on leash. That is the rule. That is the policy. My frustration is the fact those individuals do not adhere to it. They don't care. And the issue is, and I find that very upsetting, either there's a rule and you adhere to it. You may not like the policy. If you don't like the policy, there are ways you could try to advocate for a change. I believe that there should be a delineated dog park somewhere. I'm not saying necessarily in Rye Town Park. My concern is the fact, is that fair to the residents who abut the park? And it's very difficult. You don't want it to become what I call attractive. I don't want to use the word nuisance because that's not what I mean, but an area which will attract people from other municipalities, because that's really not fair to the residents of the city of Rye. But I do think there could be a place, possibly in the area, that could be a dog park. It'd have to be away from residents because it's not fair. So my frustration is, how do you enforce this? It's not a police state. It's unfair to the police officers of the city of Rye. And I would agree with Councilwoman Brett if we could have it off at certain hours, but I don't think it will work. It doesn't work now when the rule is the fact that dogs must be on leash. I'm not comfortable. I must, from my point of view. And I think people are afraid to come to the park during certain hours because dogs are running off leash. And I don't have an answer how we enforce it. We could spend money on park
Yeah.
rangers, but I would wish that people would follow the rules. Rules are meant to be there for a purpose.
But they don't. So
And
what-
I will say this, I understand the fact that, I mean, we have rules, the parks in Rybrook, every dog must be on leash. But we don't have the, maybe it's the level of dog owners, and that's not true. But if for some reason in Rye-Town Park, it's much more of an issue. And maybe it's a park that's so beautiful that everyone just wants to go there. Although Crawford Park, which is in Rybrook and is also a Rye-Town facility, is a gorgeous park as well. I don't have the answers.
I think
We've been doing this.
no, I think there was a mistaken impression that dogs could be off leash before 9 o'clock, and so I think.
But we've corrected that error
No, I understand that.
long ago.
Well, that's the only thing I
Long
can-
ago, yes, long ago.
Right, but it hasn't worked. So I'd like to just remind people that, as a former dog owner, people take their dogs out for a walk or to the park to urinate, defecate, and get some exercise. I don't want to be stepping in all the stuff that's left around, and I don't think that we should have to have young children scared of dogs running loose, or elderly people, or disabled, or anybody. I think that if it can't be, if it can't be reined in by some people who work at the park, then you have to find another way to do it. But I find it very offensive to see dogs there loose so much of the day, and I'd just like to.
Thank you. Now,
Remind
Fred,
people.
where are we? I know we've talked about this 1,000 times, and we talked about how we were going to try and enhance enforcement. And
Well, one of the discussions that the security.
Fred, maybe you just better go up to the thing. Sorry.
Enforcement of this policy and state law and Rice City law is very difficult. We've tried, we've given out warnings, warning after warning after warning. We took names and addresses. We've tried every way possible. The people that have dogs running there refuse to adhere to it. Now, the last proposal that Security Chief Nito made was that he spoke with the county police, who said that they have no problem sending police officers there to give summonses, and they're entitled to give summonses in the park. So that's about the.
Could you coordinate with the Rye City Police and the county police? And I think we need to have a recommendation for enforcement. I think Mayor Feinstein's absolutely right. At the end of the day, we can't go into another season because. Thank you for your comments, Mrs. Lefkowitz. And ultimately, if park users are being, people are being disrespectful, we know our staff absorbed all kinds of abuse last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's any patience from this board at this point to continue to tolerate it.
We had
so
a video
if you could just work, what I need, I need a solution.
Yeah.
So we talk.
We had a
Sorry,
video.
Fred, I apologize, but I need you to work with the Rice City Police and the Westchester, and you need to come up with a recommendation. I know you worked with them, but we got to come up with something new to make it work.
Mayor French was supposed to have put together a meeting with the Rice City.
That's what I
Police.
thought exactly. And
Yeah,
what happened?
Never happened. As far as the
Well,
county,
actually, Councilwoman Beck, can you coordinate
I
this?
can. I really have to speak up, though,
Sure,
for
please.
Rye residents for a little
Sure,
bit. The question is why here? Why is the problem occurring here?
Mm-hmm.
And that is because you have tradition of people using the park in the off-season with their dogs. And if you go into the park in the off-season and you go in the early morning hours, it is a well-used park, and don't we always want our parks to be well-used? I mean, you want people, the park is there for people to use, and the people who use the park in the off-season, in the early mornings, are the dog owners. I do think that I would really urge this commission to consider the restricted hours for dog owners. I think what happens if you tell people if they've been doing something for years and years, and you tell them that they cannot do it at all, you're much more likely to get flagrant violations like we're seeing than if you say, these are the hours. If you want to use this park for your dog, these are the hours when you can use the park for your dog. I think you're much more likely to have effective enforcement and effective.
It doesn't work.
With all due respect, there was the 7 to 9 a.m. We've given out brochures with the dog run area, and the 7 to 9 is one thing, but right as soon as 9 o'clock hits, they don't. Joe gave out close to 1,000 advisory notices. Joe, the security chief, through the whole season. Now, far as solutions go, we've gone around and around and around and around. We had a videotape of the abuse that our security people were taking. And one of our security personnel was ready to leave the job because they were abusing her so badly. And all she was doing was just, in a very nice way, telling people that, they need to be on leashes. So, it's not a matter...
Just to be clear, this is not like, a bunch of, zealots, I don't know if it's politically correct to use words, Nazis.
It's definitely not, by the way. So don't say that. So say zealots.
So I'm saying zealots,
right.
Getting people at 7 o'clock with dogs off leash and insisting on a policy. This is throughout the day with, as he says, over 1,000 breaches. But I still can't. You can recommend it, and I'm perfectly happy to take it up. I just can't figure out how you can recommend that I breach New York State law. If you're prepared to breach New York State law in the whole of the city of Rye, let me finish. I don't understand how you want me to breach New York State law in our Rye Town Park that we're responsible for, and then if you're prepared to extend that to all Rye City parks, I might be more amenable to that. But I don't understand why the Rye City members of this board single out Rye Town Park for the violation of New York State law, which seems to me to expose us to real liability.
Okay, a couple things. First of all, New York City has a law that allows dogs off leash in their parks within certain hours. I know that law has been presented to you before. I've got copies of that law. Well, in any event, there is a law in New York City that allows dogs off leash in their parks, subject to certain restrictions, during certain hours. So it is not a violation of New York State law if there is a local law that allows for it. Whether or not the city of Rye would consider opening up their parks, all of their parks, to dogs off leash within certain hours, within certain restrictions, certainly something we can take it up at the city council level.
Yeah.
But the reason why it has come up with respect to Rye Town Park is because that is a traditional use of the park. It is, since I've lived in Rye, which is only 11 years, but I certainly know it goes back further than that, people have used the park for letting their dogs off leash. And I do think that the needs of the users need to be balanced. I'm not suggesting that we make it a dog park year-round, but I think if you give people reasonable restrictions for when they can have their dogs off leash and then enforce it, you're in a better position than what we have right now. You're either going to have really a lot of very angry residents of Rye, and I'm going to hear about it, if you try and enforce the no dog policy all hours. When this is something that people, yes, they feel entitled, and you might find that frustrating, but they feel entitled because they've been doing it for so many years. Just so you know, what I have gotten from people when I was running for city council, and since I've been on the city council, I regularly hear from people, and the other side of this is, which is that they're treated like they're criminals because they've got their dogs off leash in the park. I don't think anybody should treat each other badly. I certainly don't think that anybody who works in the park should be treated badly by City of Rye residents. I think that City of Rye residents should follow the law, whatever that is. But I do think that we have to recognize that this is a use of the park that's been going on. We want the park to be used. If we can do it within reasonable hours and reasonable restrictions so that we balance the user groups, that will be best for all. I think if we shut everybody out, you get what you have now, which is, widespread avoidance of the law.
Pardon me,
Isn't there a city ordinance against dogs off leash?
Hold on. Mayor Feinstein's been on this board for 5 years, and she can tell you 5 years ago they didn't count the money at the park. 5 years ago the park was shambles in the way it was run. So we can keep all those policies in place. Unfortunately, there was no governance at the park at all previous till Mayor Feinstein and her hard work and the rest of this board. Now, I tell you, I would feel a whole lot more comfortable if the whole of Rice City decides that they want to set aside between 7 and 9 in all of their parks for dog owners. Then I would feel a whole lot more comfortable. But I just feel enormously exposed as the head of this commission and as Rye Town supervisor if Rye City, decides that the only park they're prepared to do is one where they're sharing the liability 50-50. So I will just go on the record as saying I feel a whole lot more comfortable if the Rice City Council takes that same risk in all their parks.
Well,
Sorry.
one thing I'll say about the local law is that the city council has been reluctant to take up the local law issue with respect to dogs in Rytown Park and allowing dog usage in Rytown Park because they don't want this intermunicipal hostility for us to pass a law that allows dogs off leash in Rytown Park when this board has said that they don't want that. So, I am happy to take it up at the city council level to see if we can allow dogs
Sure.
off leash in Rye City Parks within certain
With all
hours.
due
within certain
respect, it
restrictions.
seems that there's a political problem in Rye. That's where the problem is. There's a political problem in Rye because I know that the Rye City Police are hesitant to enforce. I mean, we've called them numerous times, and I think they gave out one summons, and then no more summonses after that. So it's become a political problem in the city of Rye. But you have an ordinance against dogs off leash, I understand. So this has become a complicated situation. Now, if we can reach out to the county police to start giving summonses, that would be the end of the problem.
Well, let's know about. Well, sorry, Mayor Feinstein, I know you've been trying to.
No, the only thing I wanted to say is, I can't tell you what happened in the park when I haven't served on this commission, so I don't want to say anything negative about prior administrations because I don't have all of the knowledge. But I do believe the policy has always been consistent. It may not have been enforced, but it's always been. Even 10 years ago or 8, it's at least my recollection that the rule and the policy has been that dogs have to be on leash. I'm in a difficult situation as well, although I'm not going to be serving here much longer, because I have my own policy in Rybrook that we don't allow dogs off leash. So why should I, in fact, advocate? I understand they're dog owners, but we've also been to meetings where we also have a vocal group that's very upset. They said they won't go to the park if the dogs are off leash because there have been incidents where they have come back to us. And I've always said this, and for full disclosure, I don't have a dog, and I think that's very important for you to hear that because it's not that I'm against dogs, it's that I don't have a dog, and I think that's very important for you to hear that because I've always said my first priority is to make sure that the parks are for people first and dogs second, and I understand. I have friends who treat their dogs as a member of the family, and I mean it. So I get it. I do. But I want to make sure that residents and people who utilize the park feel safe. And sometimes they don't feel safe with dogs running around. And that's the concern I have. And it's a conundrum. And the only way I can see a solution, and I don't even think enforcement, I don't want this to be a police state. I mean, it's a lovely park. The only thing I can think of is could there be a compromise where you have a delineated area that could be used. So you have a place for dogs to run free, which is a great thing. They need to be exercised. But on the other hand, I'm not sure it's in Rytown Park because I'm concerned if the residents agree to it, I think that would be great. But I want to be sensitive to the residents of the city of Rye who abut the park because would that, in fact, attract more traffic?
But I'm happy.
And noise.
And look, again, I don't. No one's trying to penalize anybody. And so, if you told me that the Rye City Council was giving serious consideration to a Rye City Park-wide ordinance that before 9 o'clock dogs need not be on leash, and everybody beware, I would give that serious consideration, obviously, in Rytown Park. I really would. And if that's the solution, I think the solution we've been talking about has been really a dog run. Mm-hmm. But if you say, and then I hear what you're saying when you say, we'll get better enforcement, right? Because now it's citywide. I think you give the Rye City Police, a clear mandate. The dog walkers will, I think, look, the problem you have with is 95% or 99% of dog walkers are on board. It's the 1 to 5% that are, mucking things up. But I would, look, so I think if you, if you wanted to take this up and coordinate a solution, because this is urgent, and and I don't, look, the last thing I want to have is a contentious situation in the park. We don't want that, and you're absolutely right. We want to maximize usage of the park, resident usage. So if you could maybe work with the Rye City Police and the Rye City Commission, if you come up with something like that, I certainly would give it consideration, because I think at the end of the day we probably could make it work. You'd have to talk to hear from all the residents, obviously, and I know there's two groups, and those that feel threatened by the dogs, as we heard this evening, and those that. But if you said by 9 o'clock all dogs are unleashed, that may be the solution. I don't know, but I know personally I would be open to considering that. I don't feel comfortable with the Rye Town Park being singled out. That's the one thing I find awfully problematic. And
Well, I will take it up with my colleagues on the city council and see
Beautiful.
if whether or not there's support.
now, if
for
they're not,
citywide
we
law.
then have to find a solution. We have to find we have to find we have to execute. We have to enforce. We need an enforcement option. If we can't find a solution that the Rye City Council's in favor of, then we need to find an enforcement solution. And I'd like to avoid that. I think dog run, your solution at certain designated hours it sounds like a compromise. But we're always trying to balance all the interests of the community. That's one thing we've tried to do and I think we're mostly successfully in this board. This is the one place where we reach a conundrum. Maybe you can break that. Maybe you can break the logjam, Councilwoman Brett.
Let us not forget, Mr. Carvin, the woman whose children were, a dog jumped on the carriage on the stroller, and she was ready to sue. She was going to get a lawyer, and only through the quick action of our security chief, who met with her, allayed her fears, and spoke to her and told her that we would follow up very closely and all that.
Well, could you do me a favor, Mr. Gioffre? Would you work closely with Councilwoman Brett,
I'd be more than willing.
Rye City Police, and we need a solution. If you guys could, in fact, could you come back with a recommendation, the two of you, at least report next month and let us know where you've gotten to?
We'll report next month.
Sure.
I mean, and one thing I just want to add is that the city of Rye and the town of Rye and Rybrook are much better protected if you have a policy and it is enforced than if you have a law that's not enforced, or you really simply, we're protected liability-wise much better if we have a policy and we enforce it. So
Absolutely.
I think we're better off if we come up with a long-term solution, and I'll certainly work with Brad and see if we can
Great.
and the city of Rye Police and the rest of the city council, see if we
Excellent.
can come up with something.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Councilwoman Brett. Thank you, Mr. Gioffre. Other comments from the public? Please.
Kind of when I wouldn't have any reason to get up and talk tonight, but I do have to talk about this. I appreciate everything everybody said. I came in at the beginning, and I didn't hear everything that the woman in the back row said. I sit on the fence on this issue, and I'm really happy to hear everything everybody's saying. I'm a dog walker. I'm a professional dog walker. I have a dog. I'm at Rye Town Park pretty much every day. I was just down there 2 hours ago. The majority of dog owners that use that park are responsible, and they clean up after the dogs. However, I go down there enough and I see dogs that are out of control. People who aren't paying attention to where their dogs are. People whose dogs never come back when they call them, and dogs that are completely inappropriate to be running around off leash down there with other dogs. There are a lot of really uneducated dog owners that bring their dogs to that park. There was one Sunday afternoon I was down there until about 5 o'clock. The park looked clean. I was down there at 9:15 the next Monday morning, and in the first 5 minutes I was in there, I picked up 13 piles of dog poo that had not been there at 5 o'clock the night before. I went through almost a whole roll of my own dog poop bags. Those of us who are responsible do clean up. We are as upset about the incidences that happen every time we hear that somebody's dog got attacked or somebody got threatened or anything like that. Nobody's more upset than the responsible dog owner. So please, I beg you, try and work with us. If you told me that there were set hours I think part of the problem is there's an element of people who just really don't want the rules to apply to them. There's a lot of that going on down there. Another part of the problem is that the area that's designated for the dogs from April until September is a parking lot. And so if that's where you want me to walk my dog, there isn't anywhere for me to do it. So I have no problem with walking my dog through the park on leash. I just want to be able to keep walking her there. And if it has to be on leash, I'm okay with that. I like her to be able to run around. She does. I'm guilty. She runs around off leash. I never have her off leash during busy hours when there are people there. And my dog, I worked really hard to get her trained, and I always pick up after her. Most of the dog owners are like that. Please don't throw all of us under the bus. I know there's a really big problem with the irresponsible dog owners causing problems for other people. I know it better than anybody. I watch what goes on. I see it. And nobody cringes inside more than me. But please try and find a way to like, make it work with enforcement. I kind of don't understand how Westchester County Police are going to come in and do enforcement. And the reality is that unless you have somebody sitting there all day, by the time that dog that was off leash has done whatever he did wrong and somebody's called the police, that dog owner is already home, and the dog is already back home, and nobody's going to know who it was or catch them. It's not realistic. It's really not realistic unless it's during seasons. Who bites?
County police has bicycles.
In the winter?
No, in the summer.
Okay, well, I mean, you know what? Personally, I don't. Personally, my dog is never. Maybe at 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday when there's nobody in the park, she'll be running up in the back off leash. But she's on leash. If she's off leash for 5 minutes, I don't think dogs should be running around off leash. Maybe in the early morning hours, you can find a way to compromise.
Well,
But also keep in mind, and I've noticed at a couple of other waterfront parks, and I know they pay a lot of money down at Harbor Island to pay a guy to bring dogs in to chase the geese out of the park. They pay somebody to bring a dog in to get rid of the geese. Keep in mind that out of all the waterfront properties we have around here, the only park, and probably this includes the golf courses, that doesn't have a tremendous goose poop problem is Rytown Park, and there's a reason for that. And that's because of the dog presence. And I know a lot of people who don't like dogs don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. Go to Glen Island. You can't walk 3 feet at Glen Island Park in New Rochelle without stepping in mounds of goose poop that's twice the size of anything you're going to find at Rytown Park. So I would love to try and work with everybody on this. I see both sides of this problem, and it's an issue.
well, first of all, I'd like to, Bill, I'd like to confirm what you're saying. I think it's absolutely right. There's no doubt in my mind. As I said, 95% of the people are good actors down there.
Yeah.
And like anything, you have 1 to 5% mess things up. But secondly, Fred, would you reach out? I know the Friends of Rytown Park had some issues here. Would you reach out to the Friends of Rytown Park? I want to hear from them. And then Deirdre, Mrs. Kern, we'll reach out to you.
You know my name. That's not.
Pardon me, what?
I didn't even say who I was, and you know my name. You remember me from last month, so it's okay.
But we'll reach out to you as well. Let's. I know we tried to organize a meeting with the Friends and the dog owners last time we looked at this, and unfortunately it didn't work out for Fred. Would you just? I'll try and make that meeting as well, and let's just sit down and see if we can make one more stab at trying to find a solution that works. And as you say, you're there. You see it more than anybody.
I sure do.
So when you're there and you cringe because you know that when the idiots ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your comments, and we'll Fred, we'll reach out to you, Ms. Curran, and then we'll see if we can convince the Rice City Council. Good. Any other comments from the public? Okay, great. Rytown Park Capital Committee. Mayor Feinstein, did you want to? I know you're the liaison to the committee. Just want to maybe just update.
Yeah,
Oh, and Benny, would you? I know they were originally going to present tonight, and they asked if they could hold off till next month. The reason being they wanted to finalize some things and pull it together. But I thought perhaps Mayor Feinstein and Commissioner Salanitro might just sort of give us a brief update.
Want me to go?
You can go first.
Well, basically, they've been working, it's a very, very fine committee, chaired by Christina Beecher, and members, I'm going to leave somebody out of the committee, so I'm going to say chaired by Christina. They've been working for the last few months to have an RFP. There have been many meetings, and I think that they want to have a final draft in really almost ready form before they present it to the commission. I have a draft in front of me. It's very well thought out. There were some issues that they wanted to tighten up. But basically, it was going to be a flexible RFP in the sense that they were interested in people who request for proposals from either public or private not-for-profits or for-profit organizations to either come in to really look at the day-to-day operations, possibly take over the day-to-day operations of the park, or those who might only want to look at the adaptive uses for, in fact, the bathing pavilion or the main administration building. So it was basically being a very flexible approach to look at the park, either take it over completely, or really, we had started off initially just looking at the building itself, how it could be adapted to a use that was, I want to say, symbiotic with the use of the park, because we do know that parking is a major issue. I think the other thing that was discussed is we certainly don't know what's happening with Ride Playland, but because of the fact that the two are so close to each other and the nature of them, I think it would be interesting to also highlight the fact in this RFP, and I think we've mentioned it to the committee, that should be mentioned the fact that it is adjacent to Ride Playland. We do know that Ride Playland has many proposals, and the final proposal, I guess, is being looked at now by the Westchester County legislators. I guess stay tuned. I think the committee has done a great job, have really thought through the different aspects, have given a wonderful history of the park, and really looking towards this flexible approach to be able to get as many responses as possible.
Yeah, also, to echo what Joan, Mayor Feinstein said, the committee is a professional committee. We're blessed, actually, to have such a fine document put together. Would have cost us quite a bit of money if we had to hire a consultant to do that. But going forward, they're going to tighten up a couple of spots in the RFP. It's going to be a public document. We're going to, obviously encourage public participation. They have a good sense of public participation already. They've outreached to important components of the community, and I think that this is going to be a good first step, because it's going to, it's going to grow from there, where we're going to obviously get into discussions with contractors and other things. But to tie into the Playland thing, I think is really important, because we may be able to benefit from what's happening in Playland. Obviously, they were devastated with Superstorm Sandy as well, and I think this global look from Wright Town Park as well as Wright Playland is going to be critical. So I really appreciate the work that the Commission has done on this, and look forward to the next month's meeting.
I think there's one other aspect, Benny, which is the fact that we actually talked whether or not we should hold up this RFP until a final decision was made with respect to Ride Playland. But it was decided now, because that's going on its own path. I mean, we do know that the county executive was very high in giving it to Sustainable Playland, and I will tell you that I'm a big proponent of Sustainable Playland. I think for many, many reasons, I think it's good for the county. I think it's very good for the city of Rye. I think it's also good for Rye Town Park as well. Yep. So I am I'll be on the record as a strong advocate. But I think there's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes, and I don't want to say politics, but I'll say politics. And I'm done almost.
Yeah. Another one. I think you let loose now.
I'll let loose. But we felt that we really don't know what's happening. So we've talked about this for a long time, so let's go out when it's ready, go out for the proposal.
Great.
But I do hope that eventually the county, all parties will see Sustainable Playland as being a good solution to Ride Playland.
And as
I
a
guess
commission,
I tell you what my position is.
Well, as a commission, I think if we all digested what the options are for Playland, we should, to some degree, take a position in support
Right.
of one
I
proposal.
did
or
mention
another.
that to Supervisor Carvin.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
at
So
the next
prepare-
meeting when
Well,
we
that's
have
a
a full
good idea,
complement.
yeah.
I certainly like to do it at my last meeting on
Well,
this
actually,
commission.
would you follow up?
Yeah, we could do that. And
We could do the have Sustainable Playland make a presentation. Is that right?
Well, they did make a presentation.
No, here?
Yeah, didn't they, back in October?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I thought they did.
Yeah.
Do you want to? But you want to bring it back? Is that what you're saying?
Were all the other companies with proposals allowed to make a presentation?
No.
Well, that doesn't seem too fair to me.
Well, the reason they made the presentation is because it was after it had been, in fact, singled out.
Right.
You're absolutely correct, by county executive.
Yeah, they were vetted already.
Mr. Reno.
They haven't been vetted, and there's actually quite a movement over the last week or two to object to Sustainable Playland, and I happily have been in front of this
there's going
You've got a
to,
lot of support.
there's no question that
Growing every day.
there, hopefully at some point in time in the future, near or far, there'll be some consensus as to how Playland moves forward. And with that, as a commission, we should either support or not support whatever the county decides to do. That's all I'm saying.
Well, sorry, do you want to come back up, or?